Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking to you about the knife that I've actually been carrying every day for several months now. This is another knife from Bastion. If you guys have already seen, I did a review of the Iraq Veteran 8888 knife they did for one of the man cans. I think it might have been 2017 or 2018. This one is one that they sent me after doing that first video, and they actually sent me a second one to be able to give away. So at the end of the video, I'll be giving more details about how that's going to work. But first of all, I just want to tell you about my experience, my thoughts about this knife specifically. I'm going to throw a lot of the details over here on this side of the screen. So definitely, if you need to, pause the video and check it out. Honestly, it's stuff you can get from the product page for this, but the high points that I really want to talk about are kind of the construction materials for this thing. Now, as you'll probably notice from that list of specs, the thing is actually pretty small, and I'll kind of touch more on that later, but it has a D2 steel blade and then a stainless steel handle. So while it's small, it actually feels really good in the hand. It's not so light that you feel like you can't do anything with it. I've had some of those smaller EDC knives that almost feel unusable because they're so small. You feel like if you use them for anything, they're gonna break. This one, because it's made out of those quality materials, adds a little bit of weight to it, which again makes it feel a little bit better in hand. It makes it feel like you can actually do something with it without having to worry about it breaking. Now this knife also has ceramic ball bearings, which is definitely noticeable when it comes time to actually open this thing. It just opens very easily, very smoothly. It flicks into action very satisfyingly, to use that word. But it just makes it very easy to use, which was one of my concerns with a knife this small. I wasn't sure exactly what it was gonna feel like, how easy it'd be to manipulate, because while I have relatively small hands, I have pretty girthy hands. So to get my hands on something this small, I wasn't sure if it would work very well. However, because of those ceramic bushings and the little flipper here you have at the back of the blade, makes it actually fairly easy to open. Every once in a while, as you just saw there, I'll get like a half open, but most of the time it is able to flick into action very nicely. Now, I will say, as soon as I took this thing out of the box, it was pretty stiff. Like I wasn't enjoying the knife because of that. I was like, well, this doesn't open very well. It's not really doing anything for me. And then I realized, hey, idiot, you have a Torx bit here. Why don't you try loosening that up? And I found basically the perfect tension on it, so I was able to flick into action very nicely while also not giving the blade any play in the handle. And once I found that sweet spot, this thing has been a dream to carry ever since. Now, I should probably say at this point, probably should have said it earlier, but I'll go ahead and say at this point, my approach to EDC knives may be different than some other people on YouTube. Really, my approach is, this is not going to be my primary tool for self-defense. It's probably not even going to be my secondary tool for self-defense. Ideally, I'm never going to have to use this against a person. I don't want to be in a situation like that. So for me, an EDC knife is something that I'm opening letters with, opening packages with, doing really basic, simple, everyday use stuff that you might need a knife for. So if you're looking for something that you're going to go backpacking with and build a survival hut out of, this probably isn't going to be for you. But again, I'll probably touch on that later in the video. For my purposes, this thing has been excellent. Now, the pocket clip is only a single position. You can't rotate it around, and it is a tip-up carry. So for those, I know there are people who that is a deal breaker for them. They've had bad experiences with tip-up carry in the past. I have to say it's been working for me. Now, being right-handed, in my right pocket, the blade opens towards the back of my pocket. So even if it were to open in my pocket, it's probably not going to do anything to me. However, that hasn't been a concern because it actually has a pretty good detent once it actually closes. So it takes a reasonable amount of force to actually open this thing that, in my opinion, is probably not going to happen organically inside of your pocket. But again, I realize that there are people who, again, have had negative experiences there. So if that's a deal breaker, then that's something for you to be aware of. Again, it's only one position. You can't even flip it left-handed or right-handed. It's only going to be on this one side, so something to be aware of. Now, you do have a little lanyard loop over here right at the base of the blade, which is going to allow you to attach a lanyard to it. Typically, that's not something I like to do with my knives. I have friends who they do that to every knife they have. Me, it's not my personal cup of tea. I like it being as slim and as unobtrusive as possible. And again, because this isn't something that I'm going to be using for personal defense, I don't need to necessarily be able to swing it out into action extraordinarily quickly. Now, one of the things I don't typically do in my knife reviews is a cutting test, and a lot of that is because, in my opinion, A cutting test, if you've been actually using a knife, you know, if you've actually worn that edge down, is more of a test of the person's ability to sharpen a knife than it is to show what the actual knife itself is. However, I have to say, I've been carrying this thing, like I said, for several months now. I haven't had the need to sharpen this thing again. Again, I'm only using it for small tasks, opening packages, opening letters, opening like the little plastic packaging on things. But this edge is held up amazingly well. Not too surprising for a D2 steel blade, but this thing came out of the box razor sharp, like almost scary sharp, as has been the experience with my other Bastion knives. And this thing, again, has just held its edge really well. I don't foresee myself having to sharpen this thing for several months still to go. So that's a really nice thing for those of you who like to do minimal maintenance to your knives. Now, if you've seen the last Bastion knife video I did, you probably remember that I referred to that Iraq Veteran 8888 knife as a gentleman's pocket katana. And I feel like this knife also falls into that gentleman's carry knife category as well. Again, you have a stainless steel handle, so there's not a lot of texturing on it, which means if you're wearing slacks, if you're wearing anything that's not reinforced, like cargo pants or something like that, it's not going to tear up your pocket, which is a really nice thing to not have to worry about if you do have to dress somewhat nicer. And again, because of its small size, it's not going to be jumping out at people if they see it in your pocket. It's going to be rather unintimidating. And if you do have to take it all out at school or the office or wherever else you're at, a blade this size is not going to be immediately intimidating to people as if you were to pull out, you know, a cold steel Spartan or something like that. So again, it fits into that gentleman's carry knife very, very well. Again, which has been my experience with the other Bastion knives that I've used. And if you did have to use this knife for anything a little bit more intensive, that flipper does do a good job of giving you nice protection from that blade. So if you really have to choke up and start doing some serious work with it, again, not going to be ideal for that. I won't be the first to admit that. But it's going to give you a little bit more protection of your hand not accidentally going onto the blade. So that is a nice design feature of this. And while it may look pretty square and blocky from pictures, it fits my hand really nicely. Again, because it's so small and so slim, you don't really need a lot of that curvature and that texturing. It does have some smooth curves in some other areas specifically to make it more comfortable. But again, you don't need a whole lot of fancy design work on the handle of this thing to make it feel comfortable. And if you're doing some finer whittling tasks where you really want to get your thumb far out on that blade, the way this thing is shaped, the spine of the blade has a nice round to it, so it's not going to hurt to get your thumb behind there. And it stays pretty wide, pretty far out, so you can actually comfortably get your thumb pretty far out there to do some fine detail work, again, without having to worry about it being uncomfortable or difficult to do. Now again, the size of it, it maybe fits in these first 3 fingers, maybe like 2.5, 2 3/4. So if you're doing bigger tasks, if you're doing lots of cutting, lots of carving, lots of anything, this probably isn't going to be the best choice for you. But again, I don't think that's the purpose that Bastion had in mind when they designed a knife like this. Again, to me, this is that quintessential everyday carry knife that you have on you. Again, unobtrusive, very slim, easy to put away in a pocket. And again, it's not going to be super intimidating. If you do have to take it out to use it, you're not going to be freaking people out. Again, fits into that category very well, in my opinion. Now, the nice thing is, at least one of you out there is not going to have to take my word for this because, again, they did send me 2. So let me grab the second one real quick. So here I have that second knife still in its packaging, still ready to go. I haven't opened it or anything. And if you may have noticed, so far in this video, I have not said the name of this knife. So the first person in the comment section to leave a comment with the name of this knife that I've been reviewing this video, I'll go ahead and get their contact information and send this knife out to them. So that probably leads me into saying that my patrons are going to have a significant advantage here because I post all my content to Patreon early. So it also pays to be a patron, not only in that I give some exclusive content over there, but we do giveaways. And again, they have some advantages there. We do live streams, all kinds of stuff. Also, assuming none of my patrons respond before that this video goes public, being a subscriber definitely helps because then you'll have, again, earlier access to a video like this to increase your chances of winning in a giveaway structured like this one. So again, to sum up, I didn't expect to like this knife. I thought it'd be really too small for me to use comfortably or use for any serious tasks. But once I found that tension, which was like the 3rd day I had it, this thing just really came into its own. and again has been my everyday carry knife for several months now. And again, this is the second knife that I've now reviewed from Bastion, and I gotta say I'm pretty impressed. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never even heard of them before I saw that IV8888 knife. So to have now two in a row that I'm actually a really big fan of, it definitely makes me want to know more about their other products. Now, again, this isn't going to be for everybody. Again, if you're a survivalist, if you want to go out into the backwoods and beat the heck out of a knife and still let it keep chugging, again, probably not the knife for you. But again, if you are someone who works in an office setting, you need something a little bit smaller, a little bit more low profile, something you don't need for huge tasks, again, I think this is the knife for you. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go and throw those in the comment section down below. I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. Usually it's also really easy to get in touch with me over on Facebook. With comments here, stuff gets lost really quickly, especially responses. So Facebook may be better. And again, the best way to get in touch with me is probably through Patreon. I make it a point to respond to those people before I respond to anybody else. So again, there's another perk if you follow me over on Patreon. But anyway, with all that said, as always, I hope you're able to get something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching.